The Chase Sapphire Preferred versus the Chase Sapphire Reserve. In this video, we'll compare their costs, benefits, and see which one is the best card for you, starting with their annual fees. The Chase Sapphire Preferred has a lower annual fee of $95 compared to the $550 annual fee of the Reserve card. So many people tend to think that the Preferred card is better, but let me explain why it's not that simple. See, each of these cards have its own spending categories, benefits, and lounge access that make them unique. And even though some of these things might seem the same, they're not. Take the intro bonus for example. Both these cards have a welcome offer of 60,000 points when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months of card opening. The exact same offer, but one has a much higher annual fee. So what's the deal? Well, with a preferred card that has a $95 annual fee, each of the Chase points is worth 1.25 cents per point towards travel, meaning that 60,000 points are worth around $750. But with a Reserve card that has a $550 annual fee, the Chase points are worth around 1.5 cents per point towards travel, making the same 60,000 point bonus worth $900. So you can already see there's a difference there. Now, I know $900 is only $150 more than what you're receiving with the preferred card, but we're just getting started. Because remember, it's not just about the value of the welcome offer, but the value of the benefits, lounge access, and spending categories that you need to keep in mind when determining which card is actually better for you. With that said, let's talk more about the points and focus on the spending categories now. If you don't know what a spending category is, it's when you spend on your credit card for either dining, gas, travel, or some other item and earn points specifically for that spend. In this case, the Chase Sapphire Preferred has a few categories you might take advantage of, like 3x points on select streaming services including Apple Music and TV, Disney+, ESPN+, and most other mainstream streaming services. You can also earn 3x points on online groceries, not including Target, Walmart, or wholesale clubs. So think supermarkets, not big box retailers. Meaning, for example, if you spend $100 on that same grocery delivery, you'll earn 300 points for that purchase. Then you could earn 3x on dining, 2x on travel, and 5x on travel inside the Chase Travel Portal after you use your credit, which we'll talk more about in a second. Now, remember, these spending categories are great, but what also makes the preferred card amazing is that the points are worth 25% more when you redeem them for travel. Now, the Reserve card has a few different categories, some that are better, but remember, the Reserve card also has a $550 annual fee. So with the Reserve card, you can earn 10x points on dining through Chase Ultimate Rewards and 3x on dining outside of Chase. Then when it comes to flights and hotels, you can also earn 3x on travel outside the portal, and then 5x on flights as well as 10x on hotels and rental cars inside the Chase Travel Portal. All of this can be earned after you spend your travel credit, which again we'll come back to in a second. But if you compare the preferred spending categories to the Reserve, you'll see that the Reserve leans a little bit more towards dining and travel, while the preferred leans a little bit more towards everyday spends. Now, in addition to these spending categories, you'll also have the benefits of the Chase Trifecta, which if you don't know what that is, the Chase Trifecta is a combination of cards that allows you to maximize the points that you'll earn with each category. This combo is made up of the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex, and either of the Chase Sapphire Preferred or Reserve cards. Now, just to break this down a little bit further, the Chase Freedom Flex actually allows you to earn 5% back on rotating categories like gas, gym memberships, and even live entertainment. And the Chase Freedom Unlimited allows you to earn 3x on dining and drugstores, as well as 1.5% back on everything else. So these are both great additions to make sure you cover all your bases of your spends. But it's important to note that Chase does have a few rules regarding these cards that you have to know about. First is that, unlike with the Freedom cards, account holders are only allowed to have one Sapphire card open at a time. So if you're thinking, well, I might just open both the Preferred and the Reserve like I opened the Freedom Flex and Unlimited, well, you can't. Second, and if I didn't make this clear already, while the Freedom cards are considered cashback on their own, when you have the Sapphire cards, you can redeem that cashback as points. So, for example, that 5% would turn into 5x points. This also means that when it comes to the Preferred or the Reserve, that those points are worth either 25% or 50% more depending on which card you have, making the Trifecta even more powerful. And lastly, Chase has one more very important rule when it comes to getting approved for any of their cards, and that's that in order to be approved, applicants can't have more than 5 credit lines open in the past 24 months. Credit lines being car loans, mortgages, personal loans, and yes, other credit cards. This rule is called the 524 rule and is one of the most important rules to know because it's one of the easiest ways to be denied for a Chase card. With that said, assuming that you don't have 5 additional credit lines open in the past 24 months, I'll leave links to both these cards in the description that also help support the video. Keeping that in mind, let's talk about the benefits each of these cards has and see which one aligns more with you. Currently, the Chase Sapphire Preferred and Reserve both have annual credits and credits that expire. With the Preferred, you have complimentary access to Dash Pass for 12 months when activated, which is valued at $120. With Dash Pass, you'll receive $0 delivery fee, 5% credit for pickup orders, and access to exclusive menu items and special offers. This benefit will expire December 2027 though, so keep that in mind. In addition to Dash Pass, with the Preferred card, you also have a $50 annual statement credit for hotels booked through the Chase travel portal. And what's nice about this credit is that it doesn't require a 2-night stay like some other cards, Amex. Plus, after you use the credit, you can start earning that 5x points on travel that I mentioned before. This credit also renews every year, so if you're considering that into the $95 annual fee, that brings the effective annual fee to $45. Moving on to Chase Sapphire Reserve, we have a bit more benefits, starting with the first one, a Lyft Pink membership. This is a 2-year membership which provides 10% off Lux rides, free priority pickup upgrades, discounts on bike shares, and more. It would normally cost you around $200, so it's a great value add to the card. Next, you also have 12 months of Dash Pass with this card, but in addition to that Dash Pass, you'll also be provided with $5 monthly statement credit. Both these benefits have an expiration date in 2024 and 2027 respectively, so make sure to keep that in mind. This card also has some recurring benefits as well, including a credit for a global entry or TSA PreCheck. TSA PreCheck allows you to enter a shorter line for security entering into an airport, and global entry allows you a shorter line when returning to the States from an international trip through customs. This credit is available every 4 years, which is about how long either one of them last. And the final credit of this card is the $300 annual travel credit, which can be used for anything travel related, from hotels and flights to taxis and tolls. This is credit I mentioned before that you get to use before you earn those 5 to 10x points through the Chase travel portal. Now, when you add these 2 credits together, breaking up the global entry over the years that it lasts, that brings you to around $325 of value. So when you subtract that from the $550 annual fee, that brings you to an effective annual fee of $225. This is still a higher effective annual fee than the Preferred card, but we're not done comparing them yet. With that said, there are 2 more components of this card left that are important to know before you make your final decision. Starting with the first one, protections. Each of these cards comes with some sort of insurance and protections that cover you in case of incidents or anything else. For example, with the Preferred card, you'll have trip cancellation and interruption insurance, an auto rental collision damage waiver, baggage delay insurance, trip delay reimbursement, and travel and emergency assistance services. Which is great, but what does it all mean? Well, the trip cancellation and interruption insurance basically covers missed flights. The auto collision damage waiver is essentially protection for when you rent a car. The baggage delay insurance is basically to cover any necessities you might need if your bag is delayed. Trip delay reimbursement is essentially coverage for your trip if it's delayed more than 12 hours. And travel and emergency assistance services is for if you have some sort of emergency while traveling. Now, each of these protections does have some detailed terms of services of what they cover and what they don't cover. So make sure to read through them thoroughly and don't just assume everything under the sun is covered. With that said, all these protections are provided under the Reserve card as well, plus the Reserve card has a few others, like travel accident insurance, which provides accidental death coverage, lost luggage reimbursement if your suitcase actually goes missing and isn't just delayed, emergency evacuation and transport for those serious injuries in difficult places, roadside assistance for when you have to call a good neighbor, and emergency medical and dental benefits for times when you're far from home. Now, to be honest, the Reserve card provides a decent amount more protection that you won't find on some more premium travel cards. So if you're someone that thinks that they'll need just a bit more extra coverage, it might not hurt to have this card in your wallet over the Preferred. With that said, there's still one more category that we should talk about that everyone wants to know when comparing these 2 cards, and that's lounge access. If you didn't know, certain airports have airport lounge access where if you're connecting, arrive to an airport early, or your flight's just delayed, you can, instead of sitting in those uncomfortable boarding areas, relax in one of these airport lounges. These vary in their amenities, but to give you an example of some things you might find, some options you'll have are food to eat, hard and soft drinks, Wi-Fi, family areas, sleeping areas, comfortable seating arrangements, charging outlets, and even massage appointments. The lounge you have access to normally depends on the airport, its size, the terminal you're in, the airline you're flying on, and the card/membership of the status that you have. With that said, when comparing these two cards, the Chase Sapphire Preferred doesn't have any lounge access, while the Chase Sapphire Reserve has access to not only the Chase Sapphire Reserve lounges, but also the Priority Pass lounges as well. Combined, that will give you access to over 1,000 lounges worldwide. But as I mentioned before, not all lounges are made the same, with the Chase Sapphire Reserve lounges being some of the best. However, even though they are some of the best, the Chase Sapphire Reserve lounges currently are only in Hong Kong, Boston, 2 in New York, 1 being in JFK, and the other being in LaGuardia. There are 2 spaces available provided by Chase, which is the Terrace in Austin and the Beer Garden in downtown New York near Seaport. But if you're not flying out any of these airports or often using them as connections, you may not visit them as much. With it said, Priority Pass has access to lounges in so many airports, it's kind of unbelievable. So you'll most likely still get value out of that. This is just another benefit the Chase Sapphire Reserve provides over the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And that leads me to something that you've got to start understanding. If you are really considering the Reserve card, we've covered the basics, but there's a ton more that you don't even know about. Click here to learn about all the secret perks and benefits the Reserve card has to offer, and see you in that video. Bye.